Welcome to Perspectives, our series on thought experiments. In this series, we present provocative and unsettling narratives that challenge mainstream ideology and explore hidden truths. Nothing here is to be considered the only current reality. At Beyond Elemental, we simply aim to present information available in the ether in an organized manner and speculate the narrative. It is up to you to determine your truth. With that, enjoy.
Beg your pardon, a perspective in the intricate tapestry of American history. Two figures have ignited an enduring fascination and speculation. John F. Kennedy Jr. and Donald Trump, the son of an iconic president. JFK Jr. captured the public's imagination from an early age, while Trump rose to fame as a businessman and, eventually, the 45th President of the United States. This cast explores the interconnected narratives surrounding these two prominent personalities, particularly in light of JFK Jr.'s untimely death in 1999 and the subsequent conspiracy theories that have emerged. Born in 1960, John F. Kennedy Jr. was destined for a life in the spotlight. His lineage as the son of President John F. Kennedy and First Lady Jacqueline made him a national figure from the moment of his birth. However, this fascination took a tragic turn on July 16, 1999, when JFK Jr. died in a plane crash off the coast of Martha's Vineyard. His death sent shockwaves through the nation and laid fertile ground for a variety of conspiracy theories. One key element in this narrative is a photograph taken in 1996, capturing JFK Jr. alongside Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, Trump's estate in Florida. Another photo of the two men sitting courtside during a game at Madison Square Garden in New York City was taken in March of 1999. Just 4 months before the plane crash that is reported to have taken the life of John, his wife Caroline, and her sister. These seemingly innocuous images have since become a focal point for those who view it as evidence of the friendship between the two. One that may have led to the partnership of avenging the assassination of JFK on November 22, 1963. Following JFK Jr.'s death, several theories surfaced suggesting that he had, with the help of Donald Trump, staged his demise to escape the pressures of public life and work covertly to expose corruption within the political system. These ideas gained significant traction with the rise of the Q drops in 2017, which promoted notions of a hidden battle against the deep state, thought to control global events and politics. For many, Trump became a symbolic figure in this struggle. With hints and coded messages, its ongoing presence and involvement, the political landscape shifted dramatically during Trump's presidency, beginning in January 2017. Coincidentally, the first Q drop was on October 28, 2017, 9 months after Trump took the presidential oath of office and gained access to classified information. Following the contentious 2020 presidential election, theories swirled around claims that Joe Biden's victory was illegitimate and that the deep state had rigged the election. Supporters of Trump increasingly interpreted his remarks and actions as indicators of a known hidden agenda, speculating that Trump was aware of the expected cheat in 2020 and put in motion plans to prove it, working at the true commander behind the scenes of the fake Biden presidency and fake mainstream media, further intertwining beliefs about JFK Jr. his survival and collaboration with Trump in a struggle against perceived injustice. The events of January 6, 2021, marked a crucial turning point. The storming of the Capitol raised alarm, many suspecting the deep state was involved, attempting to distract from the allegations of a rigged election. This intensified the questions surrounding the legitimacy of Biden's presidency, leading some individuals to assert that the former vice president was not the genuine president, but rather an actor playing a part in a grand charade, a puppet, with the deep state, specifically Obama, Pelosi, and HRC, pulling the strings. This narrative found unexpected support in the story of Arthur Roberts, an actor rumored to have portrayed Biden in a fictional context. The mysterious disappearance of an IMDb page listing him as portraying Biden during the inauguration added fuel to the fire. Drawing the attention of conspiracy theorists, several significant locations have emerged in this narrative, including Chateau Amérois in Belgium, allegedly a gathering place for elites. It is also speculated that it was a picture of this "castle of darkness" inside the white envelopes distributed to individuals and Bush Sr.'s funeral, central to his often used phrase, "1,000 points of light," alleging this is a direct reference to a room inside Chateau Amérois, a room rumored to be lit by the light of 1,000 candles during certain ceremonies. Additionally, Tyler Perry Studios, featuring a replica of the White House, have sparked curiosity and speculation. The complex interconnections between JFK Jr., Donald Trump, and the myriad theories surrounding them reflect the nuances of belief in contemporary America. This narrative encourages reflection on how historical figures become entwined in speculation, illuminating questions about power, influence, and the quest for truth in an age dominated by information overload. Beg Your Pardon invites you to be observant, think logically, and pay attention to the details.
Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to go deep.
Great. Looks like we're going down a fascinating but kind of strange rabbit hole today.
Yeah, these sources are definitely unique.
It seems like the overall theme is questioning if things are really what they seem, especially when it comes to politics. Am I on the right track?
Definitely. The sources we have, articles, online posts, even some excerpts from different publications, all kind of come together to paint a different picture of what's going on behind the curtain.
Okay, so we're not taking anything at face value here. We're looking for the story behind the story.
Exactly. And the best place to start is probably with, well, a pardon.
Who's getting pardoned?
Hunter Biden.
Okay, pardoned by his father, right. The current president.
Right. Now, a lot of people see this pardon as just a strategic political move, but these sources are asking, what if the person who gave that pardon wasn't actually the legitimate president?
Whoa, hold on. Are we talking like shadow presidency here?
That's a big part of what these sources are suggesting. The idea that even when Biden was president, it was actually Trump pulling the strings behind the scenes.
And aiming for a comeback in 2024, which of course did happen.
Right, exactly.
I mean, Trump's president-elect now for his second non-consecutive term? That's pretty wild when you think about it. But going back to this shadow presidency thing, is there anything to actually support that idea? Or is it just, speculation?
Well, the sources point to the fact that Trump never really left the world stage, even before he officially took office again. He was still meeting world leaders, making statements about foreign policy, all that.
He's been pretty hard to ignore, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But could this all just be part of his personality? Or is there something more calculated going on?
That's the question. One source I found even compares Trump to, get this, John F. Kennedy. Specifically, JFK and his conflicts with the CIA.
Interesting. Didn't Kennedy want to basically dismantle the CIA? Something about them acting beyond their authority?
Exactly. And Trump has also been pretty vocal about not trusting the intelligence community, even claiming that he was spied on by the previous administration.
So are we seeing a similar situation here?
Yeah.
Is Trump battling against some kind of deep state?
That term definitely comes up a lot in these sources. This idea of a hidden network of powerful people working behind the scenes, manipulating things to benefit their own agenda.
So these sources are suggesting that this deep state might have been working against Trump, even during the Biden administration.
That's one way to look at it, yeah. And it's kind of interesting how Mar-a-Lago keeps popping up in this whole narrative.
It's not just Trump's home, right?
No, it's got this whole history connected to presidents and power, even before Trump bought it.
Yeah.
It was known as the Winter White House back in the day.
Yeah, the original owner, Marjorie Merriweather Post, even wanted to give it to the government for like presidential retreats and diplomatic stuff. So it's definitely a symbol of power, maybe even a place where things happen in the shadows. And speaking of shadows, a lot of these sources also talk about the 2020 election.
Yeah, that's kind of key to understanding this whole perspective. These sources are full of claims that the election was rigged. And that plays into this whole idea that Biden wasn't actually the real president.
Okay, now that's where things get a little out there. Biden was an actor.
Well, some of these sources talk about these super realistic silicone masks so good they could be used to impersonate someone.
I gotta admit, that's kind of creepy. So are they saying Biden was literally someone wearing a mask this whole time?
Not necessarily just one person, actually. There's this story about an actor, Arthur Roberts, who supposedly appeared in some kind of film where he played a fake Biden at an inauguration, and then his IMDb page just vanished.
What, completely gone?
Poof, disappeared. Some say it's still archived on the Wayback Machine, but with all the hacking of the Internet Archive lately, who knows what to believe anymore?
Adds to the mystery, for sure. But going back to this deep state, how does that all tie in?
Well, if Biden wasn't really in charge, who was calling the shots? Some sources are pointing to the preemptive pardons, not just for Hunter, but maybe for others in the previous administration.
So are they saying these pardons were a way for the deep state to protect their own?
That's one interpretation. And then you add in the whole financial aspect, billions of dollars in foreign aid being sent overseas while people here are struggling after natural disasters. It kind of feeds into this narrative of misplaced priorities, the government being out of touch with the people.
Okay, so we've got a pardoned son, a potential shadow presidency, historical parallels, a maybe staged reality, a deep state, and some questionable financial dealings. That's a lot to digest.
And we haven't even gotten to some of the really symbolic stuff, like those envelopes that supposedly had a picture of the Dark Castle in them handed out at George H.W. Bush's funeral. Or how Tyler Perry Studios, with its replica White House, fits into this whole narrative of manufactured reality.
Definitely a lot to unpack here. But it's important to remember, this is just one perspective, one way of looking at things based on these sources. What jumps out at you? What makes you think, that's interesting?
It's like trying to put together a puzzle, but the pieces keep changing shape.
And some of the pieces might be missing on purpose. You mentioned the Dark Castle or Chateau Amaroi. What is that place exactly?
It's shrouded in mystery. Because it's privately owned, there's not much information out there. But the fact that it's been linked to all these powerful people and that there were these envelopes, allegedly with photos of it, handed out at a former president's funeral.
Yeah, that's pretty strange.
It definitely makes you wonder.
It does. It's like something out of a spy novel, like a secret society meeting in the shadows. And didn't one of the sources mention something about 1,000 points of light?
Yes. That's a really curious detail. George H.W. Bush used that phrase in a speech, and some people have connected it to a specific room in the Dark Castle.
Like candles being lit during some kind of ceremony?
Possibly.
Okay, now we're getting into some serious symbolism here. Secret symbols, hidden meanings. It's almost too much.
But that's how these narratives work. They thrive on that kind of speculation. And it's not just about uncovering the truth.
Right.
It's about questioning the nature of power itself, how it operates, and who really benefits.
Which brings us back to this whole idea of a staged reality. If we can't trust what we see, what we're told, if everything is potentially fabricated, how do we make sense of the world?
That's the fundamental question these sources are raising. One of them even suggests that Tyler Perry Studios, with its replica of the White House, could be part of this staged reality.
Whoa, okay.
Whether that's true or not, it does make you think, what else might be happening behind closed doors in these places that are designed to look like the real world?
It's almost like living in a movie set,
Yeah.
but we don't know who's writing the script or calling the shots.
Speaking of calling the shots, there's also this concept of 5D chess that these sources bring up, this idea that Trump is playing a game that most of us can't even comprehend.
5D chess. So every move he makes is calculated. Every action has a hidden purpose. That sounds pretty intense.
It does, and it raises a really important question. If power is being wielded in that way, behind the scenes, how can we hold those in power accountable?
Yeah, how can we make sure that decisions are being made for everyone, not just a select few?
Exactly.
That's a tough one. And this doesn't just apply to politics, does it?
No, not at all. These sources point to the media, the financial system, even the entertainment industry. They're asking if these are all part of some kind of grand illusion.
A carefully constructed narrative that controls what we see and believe.
Right.
So we're all just pawns in a game we don't understand. That's kind of unsettling.
It is. But it's also a challenge to us to think critically, to question everything, to really be careful about the information we consume.
You mentioned JFK and the CIA earlier. One of the sources actually quotes Kennedy saying he would splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. That's some pretty strong language, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It shows just how much distrust there was between Kennedy and the intelligence community, and these sources are suggesting that Trump is facing a similar struggle
Huh.
against this powerful bureaucracy that's been around for decades.
That's an interesting parallel. But couldn't you also argue that Trump's distrust of the intelligence community is just part of his personality? I mean, he's always been someone who questions authority, who isn't afraid of confrontation.
Yeah, that's a valid point. But the sources we're looking at present a different interpretation. They see it as this battle between Trump and this deep state that's trying to cling to power. It's like history repeating itself.
And it makes you wonder, if these agencies were willing to target a sitting president, what else are they capable of? How far would they go to protect their interests?
Exactly. It raises some serious concerns about the extent of their power and influence.
It does. And it also highlights how important accountability and transparency are. If the people in power aren't answerable to the people they're supposed to be serving, well, then democracy itself is at risk. And this brings us right back to this idea of a staged reality,
Yeah.
a world where we're constantly being fed a narrative that might not be true. We talked about Tyler Perry Studios earlier with that replica of the White House. Is that just a coincidence? Or is it part of this bigger picture, this idea that we're living in a manufactured reality?
That's what these sources are suggesting. And whether we believe it or not, it forces us to consider the possibility that things might not be what they seem.
It's like questioning the very fabric of our reality.
It is. And once you start down that path,
It's hard to turn back.
exactly.
It's like opening a door that you can never close again.
But that's also the power of these narratives, right? They challenge us to think differently, to question what we've always believed, to be more critical of the information we're given.
So what do we do with all of this? How do we navigate a world where it's getting harder and harder to tell what's true and what's not?
That's the challenge we all face. But I think it starts with being open to different perspectives, even the ones that seem strange or hard to believe at first.
Because sometimes the most unbelievable stories turn out to be true, or at least they have a grain of truth that's worth exploring.
Exactly. We have to be willing to listen, to question, and most importantly, to think for ourselves.
And maybe, just maybe, by doing that, we can start to piece together a more accurate picture of the world, even if that picture is more complex and more unsettling than we imagined.
You know, the pardon of Hunter Biden, it's more than just a legal maneuver. It's a symbol. It represents the potential for corruption, the possibility that power is being used to protect certain people, and it raises all these questions about what else might be happening that we don't know about.
It's definitely thought-provoking. If a pardon can be granted so easily, what other actions might be taken without our knowledge or consent? What other levers of power might be pulled? These sources seem to suggest that the pardon is just the tip of the iceberg. It's like we're stuck in this giant web, and every time we try to get out, we just get more tangled up.
And we don't even know who the spider is. But one thing's for sure, there's a ton of information out there, and it's tough to sift through it all. Especially when you consider the possibility of fake news, misleading information, even straight-up propaganda.
That's so true. Now more than ever, we've got to be critical thinkers, you know? Check our sources, be wary of anything that sounds too good to be true, or too bad to be true, for that matter.
Exactly. It seems like everybody's got an agenda these days.
So, who do we trust? Who's actually looking out for us? Do these sources offer any advice on navigating this crazy world of information overload?
They really stress the importance of being self-aware, knowing our own biases, what we already believe, and being willing to challenge those beliefs.
So don't just accept everything you hear, even if it comes from a source you generally agree with.
Right. Do your own research. Look at the evidence from different angles. Be open to the idea that you might be wrong.
Because sometimes facing the truth, even if it's uncomfortable, is better than holding on to a lie, right? These sources seem to be pushing us to look deeper, to question the official stories, to consider different explanations, even if they sound a little out there.
Yeah, they're highlighting the power of narratives, the stories we tell ourselves, and how they shape our view of the world.
And if we're being told a story that's based on lies, or even just half-truths, that can seriously impact what we believe and how we act, we could end up making decisions based on a totally false understanding of what's real.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important to break down those narratives, look at the assumptions they're built on, the motives behind them, ask who benefits from this story. What are they trying to accomplish?
It's almost like there are people or groups deliberately trying to manipulate us with these carefully crafted stories.
That's exactly what these sources are getting at. They argue that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a physical one, it's an idea. A narrative, a way of framing reality that can influence our thoughts, even our emotions.
Like a virus spreading through society, infecting our minds and warping how we see things.
And once that virus takes hold,
It's tough to get rid of.
yeah,
So we have to be vigilant. We got to be critical thinkers. We got to be willing to stand up for what we believe is true, even if it's not popular, even if it goes against the mainstream narrative. These sources are pushing us to take control of how we understand the world instead of just accepting what we're told.
they're encouraging us to own our beliefs, be skeptical, question everything, and never stop searching for the truth.
It's a call to action, a reminder that we're not just passive observers. We can shape the world we live in. We can't just sit back and let others decide what's real. We got to engage, we got to question, we got to challenge, and we got to demand more from those in power, more transparency, more accountability.
Well said. And that's really what this whole deep dive has been about. Giving you, the listener, information, perspectives, things you might not find in the mainstream media.
We've given you a lot to think about, to chew on. Now it's your turn. You decide what you believe, what resonates with you, what path you want to take. This isn't about telling you what to think. It's about giving you the tools to think for yourself.
Because at the end of the day, the truth that matters most is the one you discover for yourself.